equation.
Hi, in this video we're going to be looking at solving quadratic equations. A quadratic equation is an equation with x squared in it. This thing could be 5x squared, it could be minus x squared. A quadratic equation is just any equation that's got x squared in it. It could be x squared plus 5x plus 6. There we go, that's quadratic because it's got x squared in it. But it's not an equation. An equation has always got an equal sign as well. Let's say just equals 0, just for the sake of keeping it simple. Alright, so to solve this quadratic equation, it's not very easily done in the format that it's in now. One method to solve them, which is the only method we're going to look at in this video, is factorising them. So to factorise a quadratic means to find two little expressions which multiply together to make x squared plus 5x plus 6, and those could maybe go in a set of brackets each. So these are going to be multiplied together and they'll make x squared plus 5x plus 6. So in order for these two brackets to multiply together to make x squared plus 5x plus 6, they will have to start off with x and x. The reason for that is because x times x is x squared. Yeah. And in these brackets with the x's, there's going to be a number there, and a number there, and they'll be added on to the x's. Not just any numbers though. These numbers in particular have to multiply together to make the 6 on the end. So we need to think of two numbers that multiply together to make 6. That could be 1 and 6. Let's list them. It could be 2 and 3, because 2 times 3 is 6. It could be 4 and 1.5 maybe. Who knows? There's infinite different lists of value. There's an infinite list of values that it could be. Okay, so the numbers that it's going to be, we have to be careful about this. We have to pick the two numbers which not only multiply together to make 6, but will also multiply with the x from the other brackets, and then add together to make 5x. Okay, so whatever numbers we pick, they're going to multiply together, this number times this number, and it will make that number on the end there, 6. But this number will also multiply with this x, and this number will multiply with that x, and then they'll add together to make the 5x in the middle. Okay, so the x multiplies with the x in the first bracket and the second bracket. Those x's, they multiply to make x squared. The two numbers multiply together to make the number on the end, the 6, and then the two numbers multiply with the x's from the other brackets to make the term in the middle, in this case 5x. Okay, so a little shortcut for that is basically we're looking for two numbers that add together to make 5 and times together to make 6. You could get into the habit of putting a little plus there and a little times there to help you remember. So we're looking for two numbers that add together to make 5, times together to make 6. 1 times 6 is 6, but 1 add 6 is 7, not 5, so it can't be 1 and 6, so we can cross those off. 4 times 1.5 is 6, but 4 plus 1.5 is 5.5, not 5, so close, we can cross those off. And then 2 and 3, 2 times 3 is 6 of course, and 2 plus 3 is 5, so it must be 2 and 3. X plus 2 times x plus 3. Let's look at why. Alright, so x plus 2 times x plus 3. When we multiply two numbers together like this, let's look at actual normal numbers rather than x plus 2 and x plus 3. Let's look at maybe 12 and 13. 12 times 13. 12 is 10 plus 2. So let's put 12 as 10 plus 2 and multiply it with 13, which is 10 plus 3. So this is kind of like x plus 2 times x plus 3, except instead of x we've got 10. Okay, 12 times 13 as we all know, is just 156. So we're expecting that as the answer, 156. Okay, let's see if we can make that from 10 plus 2 and 10 plus 3, because that's just the same thing. This is 12 times 13. Let's see what happens if we multiply these brackets out. Well, we would need to do 10 times 10, so that's 100. And we would do 2 times 3, so that's 6. But that would give us 106. 12 times 13 is 156. That 50 bit in the middle comes from the 2 times this 10 and the 3 times this 10. 2 times 10 is 20, and 3 times 10 is 30, and those two will add together to make that 50 in the middle, just like with quadratic equations. So when we multiply out the brackets, we need to multiply every single part of the first bracket, the x and the 2, with every single part of the second bracket, the x and the 3. There's a couple of different ways to do this to keep track of it. We could do the underlining method, where we underline everything. So we could do x and x, so we've got x squared, and then x and 3, so we've got 3x, and then 2 and x, so that's 2x, and then 2 times 3 is 6, and then we've got x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6, and we can simplify that to x squared plus 5x plus 6, which is what we started with, x squared plus 5x plus 6. So that's the underlining method. There's the claw method, which is the same thing except you draw lines like this, x times x for x squared, x times 3 for 3x, and then 2 times x for 2x, and then 2 times 3 for 6, and it looks like a claw or a half moon. It's also the half moon method. Yeah, why not? And what are the methods? There's the FOIL method to multiply them out. We could do the FOIL method, which is FOIL. Doesn't matter which order you put that in, it always works. So F is first, so that would be the x and the x, the first thing in the first bracket, first thing in the second bracket, so that would give us x squared. And then the O is outside, so that's the outside 2, which is the x and the 3, that will give us 3x. And then the I is the inside 2, so that's these two on the inside, the 2 and the x is 2x. And then L is last, and that's the last in each bracket, the last thing in the first bracket times the last thing in the second bracket, 2 times 3, which is 6. And then we get the same 4 terms again, x squared plus 5x plus 6. So that's the FOIL method. Lots of methods for multiplying them out. Anyway, so these brackets, we can be quite sure, will multiply together to make x squared plus 5x plus 6. So that means we have successfully factorized x squared plus 5x plus 6. We've put it into brackets which are the same thing as x squared plus 5x plus 6. We know that they're the same thing because when we multiply them out, it makes x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now, last step, x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0, and I've just told you that this is the same thing as x squared plus 5x plus 6. So that means that these two brackets must multiply together to make 0. Now think of any two numbers in the world that multiply together to make 0. Any you like. If x plus 2, whatever that is, x plus 2, this number, multiplies with x plus 3, whatever that is, this other number, and when they times together it makes 0, one of them has to be 0. Either x plus 2 is equal to 0 or x plus 3 is equal to 0. You can't times two numbers together to make 0 unless one, at least of them, is 0. Unless at least one of them is 0. One of them is 0. Either x plus 2 equals 0 or x plus 3 equals 0. Now look at these two little equations that we've got. They are much easier than x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. These are tiny little equations. To solve x plus 2 equals 0, we just take away 2 from both sides and we get x equals minus 2. And to solve x plus 3 equals 0, we just take away 3 from both sides and get x equals minus 3. So that last little bit, if x plus 2 times x plus 3 equals 0, each one of these brackets must be equal to 0 themselves, and then therefore you can solve each one of them individually. Okay, let's try that with another quadratic equation. Let's say x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Okay, exact same process. We want to factorize it first. So step 1, put it into brackets and make that equal to 0 as well. Okay, so putting it into brackets, we're going to start off with x and x, because they'll times together to make x squared. Now we need two numbers that will times together to make 10, but they'll also times with the x's and then add together to make 7x. So we need two numbers that times together to make 10, add together to make 7. Easiest way to do this is just write a list of all the numbers that times together to make 10, 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. The two that add together to make 7 are not 1 and 10, because they make 11. 2 plus 5 is 7, so let's go with x plus 2 times x plus 5, and we can check it by multiplying them out. X times x is x squared, x times 5 is 5x, 2 times x is 2x, 5x and 2x is 7x, 2 times 5 is 10, same thing, so it must be equal to 0 as well. And if this number times this number equals 0, then that means either x plus 2 equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0. If x plus 2 is 0, x will be minus 2, if we just take away the 2 from both sides. And if x plus 5 is 0, then x is minus 5, if we take away 5 from both sides. We can check that by taking these numbers and putting them into the original equation. We think that, for example, x is minus 5. Let's try it here. Minus 5 squared is 25. 7 lots of minus 5 is minus 35, plus 10, if we work all that out, 25 minus 35 is minus 10, plus 10 does in fact equal 0. And then exact same thing for minus 2. Minus 2 squared is 4, 7 lots of minus 2 is minus 14, 4 take away 14 is minus 10, plus 10 is 0 again. So both of those answers work. We'll try a couple more examples. Let's say x squared plus 10x plus 9 equals 0. So we're going to factorize it, make that equal to 0 as well. Numbers that times together make 9. We've got 1 and 9, or 3 and 3. X at the start of each bracket to make the x squared at the start. The two of these that add together to make 10 is not 3 and 3, because that's 6. 1 add 9 is 10, so let's put x plus 1, x plus 9. That means that either x plus 1 equals 0 or x plus 9 equals 0. In which case, therefore, x either equals minus 1 or x equals minus 9. And then we could again check it, but instead of doing that, let's just do another example. Let's say x squared plus 25x plus 150 equals 0. Difficult one. Alright, now in this one, exact same process again, just to show you how it's just a wonderful technique. It always works, kind of. Let's put x at the start of each bracket, and then everything that multiplies together to make 150. Well, let's say 1 and 150, and then 2 and 75. 3 goes into it, so 3 and 50. 4 doesn't go into it. 5 goes into it. 5 and 30. 6 goes into it 25 times, so 6 and 25. 7 doesn't go into it. 8 doesn't go into it. 9 doesn't go into it. 10 goes into it 15 times. 10, 15. And then 11 doesn't, 12 doesn't, 13 doesn't, 14 doesn't. And we've already got 15 there. So that's them all. That's a big list. Could be a decimal as well. Who knows? Alright, so we're looking for the one that adds together to make 25. 1 add 150 is 151. 2 and 75 is 77. 3 and 50 is 53. 5 and 30 is 35. 6 and 25 is 31. Of course, it's the last one. 10 add 15, 25. So we've got x plus 10, x plus 15. That means that either x plus 10 equals 0 or x plus 15 equals 0, in which case x is either minus 10 or x is equal to minus 15. There we go. Alright, so that's how you solve quadratic equations. That's the easy way to solve them, and it works best on easy ones like these ones. Believe it or not, these were kind of classed as easy ones because there's no negatives and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll be making a video. I've probably already made it by the time you watch this, because you're watching this in the future to me. But anyway, there'll be a video shortly, if not now, on some more advanced techniques on solving these and some more difficult versions of these equations. So yeah, remember to subscribe and like the video and all that. Thanks very much for watching. See you later.